Hail, Internet. It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Star Trek Discovery Short Treks, The Escape Artist.
Yes.
Featuring Harry Mudd.
Yes, Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson.
With two N's.
With two N's. Reprising the part, he played in 2 episodes of Discovery Season 1.
Yes.
So he's back for this short trek. Essentially, actually has more characters in this one than probably any of the other short treks.
It feels like it.
And yet, most of the time it's a 2-person scene. But yeah, so he's been captured by a Tellarite bounty hunter.
Yes.
And is trying to convince the bounty hunter not to hand him over to the Federation.
Yes.
And in so doing, we see flashbacks to other times when he was caught by other bounty hunters. And I kept thinking the entire time, like, oh, this guy, he's going to kill the Tellarite. Like, eventually he's going to, like, blah, 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 blah. I think it was partially because his character in Season 1 was pretty sinister. Like, the guy was, I mean, in the episodes that Rainn Wilson showed up in Season 1 of Discovery, it was a darker character.
But I feel like he wasn't committing acts of violence necessarily.
I think he kind of did.
Oh.
I think when he showed up in the Space Whale on Discovery and then he started going back and forward in time, I think he killed some folks. He just seemed a lot more devious in it. So I was waiting for him to talk the Tellarite, distract him enough to then kill him off. And in fact, they seem like they played with that trope. The writer of this episode is the writer for Morty.
I almost said Bill and Ted's
Bill and Ted.
Adventure. Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty. And so there's there's a lot of humorous elements in it. It is certainly more humorous than any of the other, maybe any episode of Discovery we've seen, really.
Yeah.
But so they play with the trope of that Harry Mudd's trying to distract him and then going to kill him, because at one point he's trying to pull a knife out of his boot. And the Tellarite's like, oh, you got a knife in your boot? Get the... I was waiting for him to take the cudgel. He keeps mentioning the cudgel.
And thankfully, the comedy was good, where they didn't discuss at all if he was happy to see him or anything.
Right. So then there's a big twist at the end where the Tellarite is somehow not bumped off by Harry Mudd, is delivered to a Federation ship, not the Discovery. I think it's called the DeMilo. And we find out that, in fact, it's not Harry Mudd that's had been captured. It is an android version of Harry Mudd. And that Harry Mudd has been basically pretending to be a bounty hunter and has created a bunch of copies of himself and is selling copies of himself, pretending they're actually him, to other bounty hunters.
Now it really seems like, and I'm surprised I didn't ask you, you don't watch Rick and Morty.
I'm not a big Rick and Morty fan, though.
But you've watched an episode?
I've watched an episode or 2, yeah.
Yeah, something's wrong with him.
It's just I haven't, whatever. For whatever reason, I haven't leaped into it and watched a ton of it. Maybe partially because people are like, you should watch it. There's that certain thing where you're like, you don't know better.
Oh, you shouldn't watch it.
Okay, now I should watch it. Okay, I'm going to watch the show. It was like Mr. Robot was kind of that thing where I was like, I'm not watching. People keep telling me to watch it. Finally, you were like, we should do Mr. Robot. I'm like, all right. Then I really liked it. Anyway, so yes, that.
Because its season is starting up soon. Oh, sorry.
Okay, all right, good.
This is a conversation we can have later.
We just suddenly now,
but okay, so the reason why I wanted to get into that is because it's Mike McMahon who is the writer of it, and he has a co-writer in Rick and Morty, which is Dan Harmon, who is much more well known than Mike McMahon. And so I just wanted to distinguish that it's Mike McMahon who wrote the teleplay.
He's also going to be writing an animated comedy Trek series called Lower Decks.
Yes.
So this is a introduction, kind of like Michael Chabon, who we saw had worked on the Calypso episode Short Trek. He's going to be writing for the Picard series. So they're kind of maybe introducing these writers.
That's very interesting. Yeah, if you look at in
short
terms of the style it's going to be, because you can certainly see in this episode how it has something in common with Rick and Morty. Because I think it did a good job of defeating our expectations, which is something that happens in Rick and Morty all the time, where they're having all sorts of weird plot twists that they can do because it's science fiction.
Also animated.
Yes, that's another freedom that they have. So it's like, just draw more. That's the special effects budget. Draw additional things.
I think my favorite line, if you were to in the writing, in the comedic writing, was while they're the Telluride is listing out the list of Harry Mudd's crimes.
Yes.
One of the crimes he lists out is regicide, and so Harry Mudd's like, "Oh, it was just a duke. What's next? Are we gonna murder? Accuracy?" Something like that.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was
I give him credit on that. And I think that actually harkens back to the original series, original Trek, when we met Harry Mudd. I think they list out his crimes in that one too. I know they're not the same crimes, obviously.
Right.
They mentioned penetrating a space whale, which is related to season 1 of Discovery. So yes, there's some funny beats. I think there was just a different version that we're seeing of Harry Mudd there that was not the version we saw in the first season of Discovery. Maybe to better effect, frankly, but he seemed more evil guy who was a little sarcastic in the in season 1 as opposed to kind of full-on comedic guy in this one. He's also, I like the fact that his ship has, when we see him, that he's the actual bounty hunter. In fact, his voice for the bounty hunter.
More Bilko-y too.
His voice modulator when he was pretending to be a female bounty hunter sounded a whole lot like Leia's bounty hunter from Return of the Jedi.
Oh, interesting.
Yate, Yoto. I mean, anyway, just that. I thought, wait, are we doing a Star Wars, Star Trek thing here? But the fact that on his ship he's got these replicas of himself that are his crew is also kind of fun. I think I saw, amongst his various treasures in his ship, I think I saw the Mona Lisa. I could be wrong on that, but it looked like he had a painting, and I could have sworn that they were like suggesting he had stolen the Mona Lisa.
Didn't notice.
I did notice this when on the DeMilo, when they open the door where they're keeping a cell where they're keeping all the robot versions of Harry Mudd. One of the versions of Harry Mudd, it has those little epaulets or whatever that he's got in the original series.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it was a reference back to that. I was like, wait, does that mean he's a robot? But anyway. So there were some fun references to the original series, references to Discovery, and it was silly. Also, he's captured on Orion, so you have the green-skinned folk.
Oh yeah.
His attempts at deception seem less than. He's supposed to be a smooth talker, but he comes off so strong and like over the top that it's like, how would that ever work? And in fact, it doesn't work in these cases because they're robots and nobody cares. Now, you mentioned something interesting though, that how would the robot have flashbacks?
Right.
If he's not, in other words, if it's just a robot.
He's not actually sentient.
Right, and unless that robot had been captured, that one robot had been captured over and over again, seems a little odd that he would have a recollection of the last time he was not caught.
Yeah, the way they were telling it was presumably to fool us into thinking that he was the actual Mudd.
Right.
And so maybe, whether or not it was just like, oh, here is his previous things. We're not saying it's that he's remembering it, even though it actually looks like he's remembering.
Right.
I mean, the way that they really cut it really looked like.
Yeah, it was certainly a suggestion he was remembering.
Yeah.
One bit during, so he has all these different strategies for trying to convince the Telluride. Till he's begging, he's intimidating, he's
he does it with everyone. Nice. His flashbacks are him trying to fool other people into letting him go.
But there's one attempt that's kind of interesting. I think maybe sheds a little light on why he's so anti-Federation. He mentions he's part of the Resistance, which I think is a lie.
I'm sure it is.
But the way he describes the Federation with such disdain that they're, basically he describes them like they're the Empire from Star Wars. And when he mentioned, and that maybe there's a bit of he feels like he's fighting the man or something. I don't know. No? Yeah? No?
I mean, he's the con man.
He's a con man.
You know, and then like you're in a classic police. I mean, why would he like the police? That's it.
The robots, androids, actually, it's a fun reference back, obviously, to the original series as well. When we meet Mudd's women, he's got that same technology, obviously. So yeah, I mean, it's effective. And it seemed like they spent a little more effort in crafting they had a couple different ships.
Yep.
They had different locations.
Yeah.
So
yeah, clearly, I mean, I would... my cursory remembrance of them is like probably a blue screen room or whatever, or refitted rooms that they, but it looked fine. It was, yeah.
They didn't just do it in the kitchen.
Right.
They didn't have the cafeteria scene again.
Right. I mean, now that you stated it that way, in terms of who's making this show and who's making some of the other Trek series, one thing that was sort of bothering me is that what I didn't see the purpose necessarily of these shows if they're not going to relate to anything that's going to happen in the next season or any other season. But if it gives you an idea of the tone, I guess, for these new Star Trek series.
That's a good point.
I mean, which one is the one, though, that the Picard guy's doing?
Calypso. That was the one that it's in the distant future. It's
oh yeah.
So we don't meet any of the crew. It had nothing to do with the actual crew. That was
covered. So
it was cool though. I liked the writing. It just wasn't really Trekky so much.
Yeah. It
was a cool sci-fi premise.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was well written for what it was, but I didn't get a sense, it didn't give me any sense at all for. Although I guess, yeah, it's even past the time, right, of Picard, isn't it?
It is. It's like. I
mean, that would have been cool.
I agree, right? If they put it into that time frame. Yeah, give him a chance to play with the characters
to anything previous.
About.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or just, and here we're coming upon it,
Do you think do you think Harry Mudd, Rainn Wilson, is going to show up in season 2
of Discovery?
I think he probably will too.
But if that's, but where I was going, though, is that if that's the tone of the animated series, that'll be fine. It's like it's, in some ways, it's clearly edited himself because it's not anywhere near as foul or as blue.
Sure, CBS All Access.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they had Tilly say a curse word or two once or twice, but that's about it.
Right, but anybody who's watched more than 2 episodes of Rick and Morty would know that.
All right, I'm jumping in. People keep saying it, and there's a reason, and I'm sure everybody's right. And I'm gonna love Rick and Morty. I'm gonna jump in. I'm doing this. And, all right, there we go.
It's another version, basically, or like within the same vein, although it's his own. I want to say it's more like Dan Harmon's sense of humor, since I know him better than this guy. And now that I've seen something that he's done, it's not as, as subversive. But it's in the same vein as Futurama. It's like, okay, how can we take the sci-fi tropes and have fun with them?
And
I would think you would like.
I saw Rick and
Morty.
Maybe
I'm learning about you.
Take over The Simpsons.
You like comedy, but maybe you don't like your comedy and your sci-fi together. I mean, you like Futurama, but maybe you don't like it.
I love Futurama, by the way, FYI. All right, so yeah, I guess this is all more about me watching all of Rick and Morty. I'm going to have to binge watch it now.
How many episodes have I had to do now so that he would know?
That's right, you can take the mic off and walk off.
Finally.
Oh, God. Whatever we were talking about. So yes, Short Treks, this was the last one. In 2 weeks or so, they're going to start episode 1 of season 2 of Discovery.
Yeah, they put a big old, trailer at the end of it there with stuff I didn't remember seeing before. So
yes. So yes, we're on board, and we'll be reviewing that for sure. Come on back. We're going to be talking Counterpart. And I've got a Lord of the Rings, which he loves.
Woo!
I gotta see if I'm doing Rick and Morty. You got to jump in on Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
That's how
don't
this works.
watch the Morty. Don't watch it.
So yes, all
it's
that
not
and more.
Worth it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.